Good evening, and you are very welcome back to episode 23 of season 2 of the Women's National League podcast here on finalwhistle.ie. I almost said the name of the show there. I'm Breifne and Aaron here for the next hour or so. We're going to be joined by some of the people we're going to be looking at this weekend in the FAI Cup semi-finals, FAI Women's Cup semi-finals, of course, as we're joined by the stars of Bohemians. Ciara Maher should be with us later in the show. And first, we're going to be chatting to one of the leading lights of this year's competition. That is, of course, Athlone Town striker Emily Corbet, and she'll be joining us in just a few moments. But first, of course, I am joined by the effervescent Aaron Clark. Aaron, you're looking magnificent in your green there. You cheering for anyone in particular, or is that just you've gone for neutral colour this week?
Gone for a bit of a neutral colour. There's a couple of times I've wore a specific colour at the press events, and I've been questioned a couple of times, so I decided to go nice and neutral tonight.
Excellent. Well, I'm wearing black, which of course could be either of the coming teams, Athlone and Bows. Both of them, who we feature on tonight's show, both have a bit of black in their kit, but I'm not taking favourites, I promise. Let's start maybe with a look back at last weekend's games, Aaron. We will, of course, mention Leanne Kiernan's injury. We'll talk about that later in the programme. But in terms of the weekend's action, we have to start in Athlone. We're going to be talking to Emily about it later on, but what a victory for them. 2-0 winners against Shelbourne. It has completely blown the title race wide open. 6 points between the top four sides, but the way they play each other, any of the four, if they go on a run for the last couple of games, anyone could win this league now.
Don't forget the last two games for Wexford are Peamount and Shelbourne, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Yeah, but the thing is, Breifne, it's been a bad 7 days for Shelbourne. They lose to Peamount the week before. They don't look like they're going to score against them, and then they go into the Athlone game. First half was tight enough, but second half Athlone just took over, and it was as if you were watching Shelbourne and you were thinking, what's going to happen? Can they make any changes? He took off Noel Murray. He made changes, and he tried to go at it, Noel King, but they just couldn't get the response. I think a lot of that's due to the credit of Athlone. Like, you look at, and I've said this on social media over the weekend, the one thing that reminds me is watching Jessica Hennessy after the 1-1 draw in Talca Park leave the pitch in tears after giving away a late penalty, and to get player in a match against Shelbourne in this one just shows the testament. And I think for Tommy Hewitt's side, it's a result they deserve. They've been chipping away at getting these sort of big results. It's the first one they've got at home as well. The big results so far this season, the draw against Shelbourne and the win against Peamount, both come away. So they've got a massive result at home, and it was a well-deserved for the last half hour. It sort of looked as though Athlone, if they wanted to keep putting the foot in the pressure, they could have scored more potentially. And for Shelbourne, it's one of these days that it was a massive frustration. We've seen them have a couple of wobbles this season. The one in particular is where they drew at Athlone, lost to Sligo and drew at Bows in the space of 7 days, and it just shows you when the chips come down after poor results, if you don't change it quickly, you can, in this league, you can suffer 2 or 3. And I think that Athlone's credit, they had the bit of a setback a couple of weeks ago against Peamount, and they've really come back and put their tails back into it. People are probably saying, are they out in the title race? But the weekend shows they're still alive and kicking and in with a real possibility.
Yeah, no, it's really blown everything wide open, and I think I'm really excited about what the future holds, because we also Shells falter a little bit in recent weeks. We thought it would allow Wexford back in, but we didn't really expect it to pull Peamount and Athlone back into the mix as well into the coming weeks. How important is that game? I know we're getting away from the results last weekend, but how important is that game in round 1 where Peamount lost that 6-0 victory against Sligo? The 3 points, the 9-goal swing, that could be the difference between winning and losing the league this year.
Apart from goal difference, which doesn't count in the National League, the 3 points alone, it's a massive 6-point swing. They get that. They don't lose them 3 points. They get them back. They're right in the mix there. But the thing you'd have to say is some of the results that Peamount have had where they haven't delivered, that's probably going to be the most disappointing thing. From they're on a run now where I think they've won 5 or 6 in a row. They've really stepped up their game, and I think they'll be bitterly disappointed. But you also got to give credit to other sides. The likes of the Bows getting a win and a draw against them, Athlone beating them as well. And the years gone by, we wouldn't have seen all this. And I think that's what makes it more exciting, is because we're now talking about 4 teams potentially challenging, whereas previous years, at this stage, you'd probably see the third place team would have faltered and gone by now, whereas it's not the case.
before we bring Emily into the conversation, can Athlone get a top 3 spot? Can they break that stranglehold they've had on the league? She'll give us her opinion later. She's going to say yes. What's your thoughts?
It's going to be difficult. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be difficult. But the thing is the one thing you've always said in this league is if you get momentum, you can get big results. The fact that they got that win over Shelbourne is key. They're going to go into the last couple of games thinking it doesn't matter who we're playing. Same with this weekend, as we'll talk about later. They don't care who the opposition is. They don't fear anybody anymore, and that's the biggest difference with the likes of Athlone, is they don't have that mentality against the bigger sides. You can see Bo, for a good while, Bo's had it as well, where you go out against the bigger sides and you think, oh no, I just don't want to lose. Where now all the teams sort of have that thing where they don't care if you're playing week in, week out. If you don't play to your A standard, I'm going to turn you over here. And I think for Athlone, if they can just pick up another couple of results, I think it is possible. I really do think it is possible, especially with the games that the top 3 still have to play.
I think if you look at the last week's fixtures as a whole, we won't necessarily go through every single game by game. All the details are beneath us here. But if you look at it, I think if you had said 12 months ago that this set of fixtures were going to happen on a single weekend, I'm pretty sure, bar the Wexford Treaty game, and I'll talk about that in a second, all the games would have been predicted to have gone the opposite way. Shells definitely would have been favourites against Athlone Town. That's no longer the case, really, week in, week out. Galway losing to Cork, that's a bit of a surprise too. Great result for Cork. Kind of vindication for Danny Murphy and the team that have put in a huge effort over the last few weeks and months just to stay competitive. Sligo Rovers beaten 6-0 on the field against Plymouth on the opening day of the season. Looked like it could have been 16, only beaten 2-0 last weekend. They've made serious progress this season. DLR losing to Bows. People wouldn't really have predicted that 12 months ago. And even the treaty result in itself, I think the bottom side who've been cannon fodder all year, not been disrespectful, but that they have, minus a couple of players, they've lost more in the mid-season break, and the league leaders could only beat them 3-0, despite having most of the possession. It's a really tight performance from Donald Reardon's side. Can we see the gap maybe shrinking a little bit between these sides?
It has shrunk. There's no doubt about it. It has shrunk, and it shrunk massively. But the problem is you just got to be careful. Is as we bring more and more teams into the league, there is a potential that some of the teams who are getting better now can continue to get better, but we can still have a gap appear again, and we need to be very careful in that sort of bridging of it. With the likes of Treaty, I think Don has tried his best down there. He's given a lot of players an opportunity. Some it's worked, some hasn't worked, but he's built where he knows he's got a core where he's trying to build around. And they're like Athlone a couple of years ago. That's the biggest thing I could say is you look at Athlone when they first came into the league, they lacked National League experience, and it was so evident. But the core group is still there, and it's the same core group that were playing a couple of years ago that are doing what they're doing now. And it just shows when you get the experience in this sort of level. The one thing I will say is Ella Malloy went off injured for Wexford Youths early in the game. If that's a serious injury, she could be a massive loss for them, not just this weekend, but for the rest of the season. And you look at that, that's a real game changer for them if they were to lose, and that could again blow things open. Like there's no doubt about it, Shelbourne are missing the players that went to England at the start of the year at the summer break, but the teams who've been able to strengthen the likes of Bows are reaping the rewards. It's great, as you say, it's great vindication for Danny Murphy and Cork that they got that result. But for Galway, it's just been a really, really bad week with the stuff off the field, and then the loss on the field sort of compounds it for them.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Athlone and their successes so far, they haven't won anything yet, but someone who's hoping to maybe change that in the coming weeks and maybe even get that trip to Tallaght Stadium as part of their adventure in this season, which has taken us all by a surprise to a certain extent, but we've all enjoyed the journey. It's been fascinating watching them. Is going to join us now, and that's Emily Corbet from Athlone. Emily, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
Emily, it's been an absolute whirlwind for Athlone. You've been pivotal to that. I think it's 17 goals this year. It's a phenomenal individual record this year, but really it's the team that's almost caught the imagination, and they've been this, I suppose, the really positive story coming out, or one of the positive stories coming out of the Women's National League this year. What's it like being involved in that and being central to that kind of emergence of Athlone this season?
Look, it's been fantastic, I suppose. I think at the start of the season, if someone told us we were in third place in the league, we probably wouldn't have believed them. But like we set goals at the start of the year to have a good cup run, and we found ourselves in a position that we didn't last year before, and we have a chance to make history. But being a part of the squad this year has been fantastic. Like we've had a few downs, but like we've had really, really good results, and we're just delighted in the position we are at the moment.
Breifne, just on that, like I think from an Athlone point of view, like remember I even said it on the show when I spoke to Tommy after they drew with Shelbourne, and I sort of said you'd be happy with a point at the start of the game, and he was like, no, we come up here to win. I think it's fair to say this year, Emily, the mentality, because of the experience you've built in the league, has been so different. Talk to us about going into sort of games against the big teams where maybe previously you would have went in there hoping not to lose rather than aiming to win them all.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the likes of last year, like we were letting in so many goals against the likes of P-Mounts, and we were going in thinking like try not to concede as much. But like this year, it's changed a lot. Like we don't fear teams, but like we obviously respect them. Like the top teams that we've taken points off, they've achieved so much in their careers and have a lot of trophies. But we always go into games with confidence because we always know what we're capable of, and I think that shows this year as well. That we have a lot more experience, and we know what way to perform and how to behave as well on the pitch and off the pitch.
What do you mean by behave on the pitch in terms of, I know there was a couple of red cards seen last year through the league, but has it been a kind of a change of attitude in the dressing room? Is there a better discipline? Is it new recruits? Because there has been a bit of a change in the dressing room over the last 12 months as well.
I suppose in terms of attitude, like last year we probably would have given up in matches, but like this year we've played to the last minute, and I think we have better game management as well in terms of like seeing it out to the last minute and making sure we get the win and adding to the scoreline as well. Like last year we probably lacked that as well, and we let in silly goals and made silly mistakes that probably cost us a good bit of points in the end in the league. But yeah, we've added to the squad as well, and they've been really good in the dressing room. I think everyone has stepped up a lot this year, and they have a lot more confidence as well, because I think everyone is playing better. But just all around, we've just more confidence, and it just helps on the pitch and in the dressing room. It's just a really good atmosphere, which helps a lot.
How important has it been for having someone like Tommy Hewitt there? Because Tommy idolises everything at Athlone Town.
Yeah, I know he's been really good. He's obviously really proud of what we've achieved, and he gives us an awful lot of credit, and he supports us a lot. Like he's really good, and he's pushed us to where we are, and I suppose we wouldn't be there without him. And he's added to the squad some really good players, and he's pushed us on, and the support that he gives us just makes us a lot more confident as a team and as players.
We haven't talked about it in a while on the show. I know we joked about it off air beforehand, but there's a very strong GAA background. A lot of the girls playing in that team have played for their counties. I'm thinking yourself, Miranda Vanny, Roisin Malloy, Laurie Ryan, and there's probably more that I'm just not familiar with. How much of a bonus is that, having that kind of experience of big games, playing against real good elite athletes, that you've also, while you mightn't have had the Women's National League experience, you've got that to call on when you go to games?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like you're used to, I suppose, the professionalism of it as well, the dressing room, but it even helps physically as well. Like you're always training and you're getting the best out of your performance. But just definitely just being professional. Like I know myself being involved with the Laois team this year, it's just you're getting into a different group of players, but it's all the same. Like they're all experienced and they all have the same professionalism.
I have an interesting one on that. How do you go up and scoring so many goals in the National League, playing Gaelic football, and still being able to compete, being able to deliver on both sports?
I don't really know, to be honest. I suppose I didn't expect to be in the position I am with this much goals this year. I haven't really thought about it, but with Gaelic, I just think you're playing it. I've been playing Gaelic my whole life, and I'm just so used to it as well. But I don't know. I suppose it's hard to find the balance. But with soccer, I think the girls around me have been really, really good this year, and they've given me a lot of support, I suppose.
In terms of, I suppose, the game at this weekend, you face Wexford. Now, just kind of quick look through the results. Athlone have never beaten Wexford. Is that something that you're aware of, or does that matter? Is this a blank slate? We'll take Saturday on its own merits.
Breifne, just before she answers, they'd never beaten Shelbourne or they'd never beaten Peamount before this year either.
Yeah, exactly. No, we haven't taken points off Wexford at all. Obviously, at the weekend we did taken 2 points off Shelburne, but no, we know what Wexford are capable of, obviously. But like, I think it gives us a bit of more fire to go in thinking that we have a point to prove against them. Obviously, we have to take points because it's a big, huge game. Obviously, it's a cup semi-final, and we've never found ourselves in this position before. But no, it definitely gives us, I think, a bit of a push on that we haven't taken points. We've more to prove for ourselves.
You talk about Wexford. There's been times where you've been close. You know, you've been very, very close. There's 2-1, 2-1 defeats, late goals here, late goals there. How much do you sort of take out of them games going into a cup semi-final, or do you completely leave that to the side because that was league football where this is cup football?
Like, I suppose with Wexford, you kind of have to get used to the way they play. Like, they're always scoring late goals against any team, and we've been guilty of that as well. Like, at the start of the season, we went up 1-0 and conceded 2 very late goals against them. But I suppose you have to leave to a side to a certain extent because you want to have a bit of confidence going into the game. But like, they are like that as well, and we know we have to play until the 90+ minute to get a win and try and be in Tala in a few weeks.
Now, we asked you about the mixing the 2 sports with Gaelic and football, but also you had the small matter of the Leaving Cert this year as well. You're a busy girl, but I believe you started college in Galway. Has anyone from Galway been in touch, maybe trying to tap you up for next year? Has that happened yet?
No, not really yet. No, I have the scholarship, so we'll see how it goes. But it's the same distance from Galway to Athlone as it is from Athlone to Clonaslee, so...
Yeah,
Billy Cleary
I shouldn't use the word tap up. I'm really sorry, Billy. Don't text me again tonight. But it's one of those things. Obviously, you're on scholarship in Galway. There seems to be a nice little group growing in the university in Galway. We don't talk about the university's game that much on the show anymore, but I know Myrne Devaney's down there as well as some of the other girls playing in the Women's National League. Are you giving odds on you to win the varsities this year? Is that something you're even aware of yet? Because it's only probably orientation week.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're only starting Monday, but I don't know, hopefully like Kate Slevin's down there as well, and Shauna Brennan and Trey. So like we've a really good team. So that's definitely something to aim for, I suppose.
Billy gets the sack. There's no way.
Billy will get the sack if they don't win. I can't not ask though, Emily, sport and family, brothers played League of Ireland football, he's played inter-county football. Do you draw on his experiences much when you're playing big games in the National League, or does he give you much advice from time to time?
Oh no, he would. I suppose he's turned a bit more into a GA head now, but like he's definitely has huge experience especially with the Europa League. I suppose I probably wouldn't be playing soccer, to be honest, if it wasn't for him. But I know he's very supportive and he watches all my games. So
yeah, does he travel to them though? Or are you the black sheep of the family that he gets all the support, or is it evenly spread?
I know, and he doesn't travel to my games now, but he watches them at home from his house. So
fair enough. We let him off the hook this time. In terms of the weekend, though, the FAI Cup, you've already got 3 goals so far in the competition this year. Hoping to add to that at the weekend, or does it not really matter if you score as long as the team gets through? Is it about performance now, or is it just about the result?
To be honest, it's just about the result, I suppose. Like, it's great to score, but there's so many girls on the team have scored this year. Like, it's always different every weekend, but just definitely about getting the 3 points and getting to the final, hopefully.
Having a home cup semi-final as well is always nice.
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's a huge advantage because traveling to Wexford is never nice. It's always a horrible game to play after a long drive. But Athlone now at cup semi-final, it's the first for us, so it'll be a huge game.
In terms of your own ambitions, I suppose we've seen you with the Irish under-19s in recent times as well. What's the plan? I know you've started college, so there's a couple of year commitment there, 3 or 4 year commitment in that. But in terms of where you hope to get to, is the professional career an option for you? Are you happy where you are? Like, what's the bigger plan really for Emily Corbet for the next few years?
Look, I suppose I don't know. I haven't really thought that far, but definitely to break into the senior team anyways would be my goal within the next few years. Obviously, they're doing really, really well this year, but the standard in that team is really high, so I know that would be really hard to get into. But in terms of professionals, I'm not really 100% sure. Maybe if the opportunity comes up, I'd probably definitely take it, but I suppose we'll see how it goes.
2-pronged question on that for you. the home base session. It's great. How good is it to see that it's players from all over the country now? You know, like a couple of Athlone players getting in as well. And how far do you think you are away from potentially getting that knock on the door to say come in and even come into the full squad?
No, it's great that everyone's getting recognition, especially in Athlone as well. I think there's 3 of us up there now, but in terms of getting into the squad, I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, they've a lot of strikers in the league already that's with them, young players as well. But I suppose I just have to keep going to home base training and try and progress as much as I can and see how far I can go and see how long it'll take before I break into the squad.
Yeah, I was looking at the top goal scorers in the league this year. Not that that's a complete version of how good people are, but it's a fairly good indicator. You're ahead of some fairly established names in the league, like Stephanie Roach, Kylie Murphy, Noel Murray are the 3, I think, immediately below you in the list. So I don't think you might have expected to be ahead of them at the start of the season, but you've been there all year. So congratulations on that. Emily, listen, all we can say is the best of luck at the weekend. Hope things go well for you and the team. And you never know, maybe we'll be talking to you or one of your teammates ahead of an FAI Women's Senior Cup final in a couple of weeks. Best of luck.
Yeah,
thanks.
Thank you.
Emily Corbet there from Athlone Town. She seems good humour, fairly relaxed ahead of the game. Doesn't seem nervous at all, Aaron.
Yeah, I like that because the biggest thing is in players is you look at the week that's in it. It's easy to get tensed up and to get nervous, and I think that comes down to the experience that she's had in previous sports, played underage international as well. Whereas if you don't have that sort of thing, you may be a lot more nervous. And I think they're probably just excited what they're looking forward to off the back of the weekend results. You know, why wouldn't you be looking forward to it? There's also the opportunity potentially for more games to be live on television and more exposure. So it's good times for Athlone. It's positive times for Athlone, and it's great to be talking about things like that and stories like that compared to maybe years previous where we'd have been just saying, it's going to be a Shells Wexford Cup final, dead buried. The other teams may not show up. If edge of your seats, I'll be in Talca Park Saturday, and the one thing I'll be doing is I'll be rushing home to watch Athlone against Wexford because I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tight. In terms of our other guests, we're going to be joined by Ciara Maher, Bohemians, in just a couple of moments. But first of all, maybe let's cast our eye back towards the game on Saturday. Bows hosted DLR. Of course, Ciara made that transition from DLR to Bohemians in the close season last winter. She found herself on the winning side. Bows with a pretty big scalp in the grand scheme of things in terms of league position and in terms of maybe expectations. Definitely at the start of the year. Your thoughts on the game?
It was scrappy. It was a scrappy enough affair. It wasn't always great, but when these two sides play, it's always like that. Breifne, there's never much in between them. It's always most league games end up 0-0 with them. So to see a couple of goals in the game as well was very good. I thought the goal from Abby Brophy was a lovely pass by Erica Burke, and Brophy finished well. Mia Dobbin with a nice strike. You sort of go into the break one up for Bows, and then they concede straight after. They didn't drop the heads. I know DLR put a bit of pressure on them, and the penalty when it comes, some people saying it's a 50-50 challenge. For me, it's a penalty all day long. She comes through the back of her, and Chloe Darby stepped up and put it into the top corner. From a Bows point of view, it was a massive result. You look at, they've won 4 of the last 5 league games. The only one they lost is Wexford. They're building nicely. They're building strong momentum in terms of DLR. Same old thing that I've said all year. They haven't won 2 league games in a row since the opening 2 games of the season. Momentum and form is a bit patchy for them this season. They've had some injuries. Jess Gleason's obviously a big loss, but for them, it's a really disappointing season. They'd have been a lot of people's tips to potentially crack the top 3, and now they may finish as low as 7th in the league, depending how the next couple of weeks go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But of course, they face into Shells. Before Ciara joins us, what's your thought on that clash? Obviously, Shells come into this with a much bigger reputation, much more experience in the league, probably go into the game as comfortable enough favourites. But local derbies, there's a little rivalry there. Some players have played for both. It's going to be an interesting game on Saturday afternoon. Can you see Bows having a chance in it?
Why not? As I said when the draw was made, it's a free hit for Bows. There's no pressure on Bows on Saturday at all. Absolutely zero. Everybody's expecting Shelbourne to go and Shelbourne to win. So for me, I just think it's a case for Bows. If Bows go and perform, they've got a chance. But you got to look at, they are without Rachel Doyle, who who was cup tied. I think Olida Griffin is also cup tied as well, but Niamh Pryor isn't. So they will be missing a couple. But Shelbourne go into this on the back of that slump, and maybe it's the right time for Shells to get away from league action to go back into cup football. That might help them a little bit. But in terms of Bows go in with all the momentum. The form is on their side. You look at I think it's quite interesting what Shelbourne have done this weekend in terms of letting Bows members and Shelbourne season ticket holders go in free for the cup. I think that's a smart idea. Just try and publicise it a little bit and trying to get a bit of crowd in and get a bit of an atmosphere, because when they played the midweek the last time, there was a bit of an atmosphere in Talk Park, but the one last year when it was 3-2 was the place was rocking. There was a good couple of hundred there, and if they can get that, it'll be a tight, intense affair. I wouldn't be shocked if Bows keep it level for the first 60, 70 minutes. I wouldn't be shocked if we even go all the way to penalties.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, let's have a chat with Ciara and see what her thoughts on the situation are. Ciara, you looking forward to a big weekend? Well, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
It's a big weekend for Bows. First FAI Women's Cup semi-final. It's against near neighbours Shells. I know there's no love lost between the clubs down decades and decades on the men's side. There's a kind of a budding rivalry there on the women's side as well. How's the mood in the camp ahead of a big game this weekend?
Everyone's doing really well. Training's been, obviously we've only trained once this week, but everything's been going smooth. We're looking at it as it's just another game. Just another game of football that you just need to think of and go out and enjoy.
I think that's the difference there, Breifne, with both Ciara and Emily. They're not talking about, it's a massive game. It's just another game, and I think that's the most important thing. And I think if you look at the way Bows are playing at the moment, last season they would have lost that game to DLR. They would have lost other games, and I think that's the biggest difference this year, Ciara. It's just that you know the attitude towards seeing out a game or getting a result compared to last year is probably gone up fivefold.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think if you just look, obviously there's a big stigma around cup games can go either way, but at the end of the day, you're going out for 90 minutes, and whoever wants it more, at the end of the day, it's just a game of football. So it's that way.
I saw some suggestions that there could be a really, really big crowd at this, maybe even smashing the domestic non-cup final, at least attendances for the women's game. 1,500 I saw somewhere. I don't know whether that's realistic or not, but it would be great to think that kind of a crowd could be gathered for Saturday's game. Does that come into your mind at all in terms of maybe not most of the players not having the experience of playing in front of that size of a crowd?
Yeah, no, if you think about it too much, I think, some of the girls probably come into effect of it. But look, it's great. Like, the opportunity to get to play in front of a crowd, like, it doesn't happen often in the women's game. And it should be something as in like exciting going out and playing and wanting to do well in front of that big, massive crowd that's going to be there. And the support that's obviously, hopefully the amount of fans that are going to come from the ball side, like the support that will be behind the players. So it should be more than encouraging than that and wanting to go out and put on a performance for them.
Ciara, you've been out injured for a while. Talk to me a little bit about, like, you're at every Bows game, the crowd, the support, the little kids. They just love coming up and getting photographs and getting autographs and stuff like that. What does that mean to a player in the National League?
It's because we haven't had it. We obviously, compared to the men's teams and all, there hasn't been much of it in the women's game, and it's something like, it's obviously different, but it just feels like you're their inspiration, kind of. They're looking up at you. Like, when I was younger, I was looking up at players and stuff like that, and you're now in that position. So it's great to kind of be that guidance for them to, like, oh, they're a little girl, they want to grow up and basically play in the League of Ireland as well when they get older. So it's great to have that.
You talked about having role models when you were growing up as well, but the Women's National League wasn't a thing when you were their age, say. Who were your influences and kind of how did you become aware of them as a kid?
I kind of just looked into, I was always around the men's kind of side of football. So I started off obviously with my dad being a manager, and then my brother playing football, and then going and watch the men's League of Ireland games. So I've kind of always been around in it. So kind of looked up to people who are closest to me to have a better influence, who know me in and out. So that's how I kind of grew up with it. And
in terms of like that, like, when you say, you're becoming role models and stuff like that, the opportunities that are becoming for the women, like even sponsorship and stuff like that. How do you make sure that we maximize that for the players? And because there's no doubt about it, social media's probably helped massively.
Yeah, I feel like social media is a big influence on it. It does come into a big impact with having to get like the promotional side of things with the football, and that's how the women's game kind of is being promoted, is all through the social media and the likes of even the live here now on this. So I feel like it's kind of good, and it's going to keep expanding as the years go on.
Before we get too deep into the cup semi-final at the weekend, let's maybe cast our eyes back a couple of days to that game in Dalymount at the weekend. Tight towards the end, you get the late winner. You must have been delighted, particularly, I suppose, given your own personal history, having switched between the clubs last winter.
Yeah, it was brilliant, because obviously I was out injured, so that obviously wasn't good watching from the sideline. But we've only ever gotten a point ever since like this season, so we've never actually beat DLR. So it was a good victory for the girls on Saturday.
It was a bruising game. Poor Erica Burke took a horrible tackle at the end. But is that just to show the competitiveness between each side? Because no side wants to back down in these sort of games, and how do you quantify that in terms of, like, you look at the way the games are played, like nobody wants to back down, but how do you ensure that you don't cross the line, maybe against an old club, or when the rivalry doesn't spike?
See, at the end of the day as well, it's a Dublin derby. Like, it's the south and the north kind of playing against each other, and I think in them type of games, it's kind of best off telling the girls to be as composed as possible in them games when they are getting kind of, just kicking battles and stuff like that. So you're best off trying to be composed and composing the ball, just so you know, because they're coming in, they're flying in on tackles and stuff like that, and you're just best off just being relaxed and getting through the game.
Just on that, does that game prepare you for the likes of a Shelbourne in a cup game, because it's another derby?
Definitely, I feel like the rivalry going into it as well, it kind of more knowing that it's a Dublin derby, like it's more of a kick about it, it's more of a buzz going into the game, and you want to go in, you want to get the results. So I feel like the girls are all buzzing now, and hopefully it all works out.
In terms of, I suppose, your own career to date, like the move to Bowes, what was it that attracted you to Bowes, in terms of being at DLR for a couple of seasons before that?
I feel like just a change was kind of needed. Obviously I was playing week in, week out as well up in the first half of the season. Then I haven't really played since the second half because I've been out injured. But I felt like I've been really enjoying my football there since I did move. I really enjoy the club and the backup, the support and all we've been getting, the girls and all that are there as well. So ever since I did move, like, I've just been really enjoying it up until I got injured anyways, but I still push on. I'm still enjoying it now. The
injury, I'm told you're just there or thereabouts to getting back into contention. What would it be like to be involved on Saturday?
Hopefully, we'll see how it goes. I've been back now this week, so hopefully it all goes well the rest of the week now.
Will you make the team for Saturday, or can you tell us that?
Don't know. I don't know myself.
How much would it mean to the club and to the squad and to everyone involved with Bowes women's side to pull one over Shells at the weekend, and to because they're in poor form recently? We've talked all show about how they've kind of lost games here and there over the last few weeks. Are they a little bit vulnerable? Are you expecting a kick from them? What's kind of the mood about Shells going into the weekend?
Look, I don't think since them, if you say like them being in kind of poor form, I don't think it really matters. I think you kind of need to get that out of the girls. If anyone has that in their head, needs to get that out of their head, because you go into the game kind of a bit weaker. You need to go in like you're competing against. They're still a top club. They're still a really strong side. So you still have to put in like competing against them. But like to get the win on the weekend would be massive, because we've only started really building this season. and it will progress. The team will keep progressing over the years. So I think it'll be a huge achievement for the club, especially for the women's side of things, because the women's team with Bows is only kind of new. So I feel like if you get the win on the weekend, it would be massive for the club.
The fact they're coming in off the back of four massive league victories as well, like you've just showed that, as you say, about Bows building. I think, is it fair to say this year there's been an attitude towards you go into every game winning? Like there's times where we talked to Emily where last season maybe they'd lose a game and they'd be okay because they didn't get beaten well by a big team, where now you go into that game and losing is not an option. It's all about, we want the 3 points, we want to win, and that's nothing short of it.
No, exactly. I feel like we're at a stage now where we're competing with the top teams, and we're going to be one of them soon. And going into games, I feel like the girls just have more belief in themselves now, knowing that like, we can go in, we can beat this side, we can compete with all the top teams. And I feel like that kind of going into games and getting results, it's really pushed the confidence on a lot in the team. The team are coming together a lot more, and I feel like it's just made them do a lot better.
We're looking at the league table here, and it's got like there's kind of 3 or 4 groups in the league now at this stage. You're very firmly in the middle of that second chasing pack, maybe 10 points behind the leaders, but within 4 or 5 points of those around you. 5th, 6th, 7th, you're currently 6th. How important would it be for Bows in the next 4 games to push on and maybe overtake Galway and get that 5th place? Would that be seen as progress for Bows this year?
Definitely, I think it would be. I can't remember where they finished last season, but I feel like you want to go out and you want to win. You want to get the 3 points off the next few games that we have. You want to go out and you win. So I feel like to even pull up into 5th place for the end of the season, if that's as far as we can get, that's the aim that we might as well achieve by the end of the season. So I feel like it is a possibility that could happen.
And what do you think, just on that, was the turning point this season? Because, early in the season, bit of hit and miss. I'd say probably the result away to Cork was one of the most disappointing ones, where you lost 2-1. What do you think was the turning point? Was it maybe that Peamount game away that gave the players a lot of belief?
See, throughout the season, there's obviously been, not only myself, but there's been a lot of injuries. So the team has constantly been chopping and changing. We've never had one team consistently playing. And I feel like within the last couple of weeks, we've had a consistent team. I just feel like as the season got on, the girls, obviously there was new girls being involved as well. We got 4 or 5 players signed during the mid-season break as well. So it is difficult when you're adapting to playing, besides everyone plays differently. So I feel like we've gotten used to playing with each other. We've come together a lot more, and it does, the belief in the team really help push on and to get the results.
Excellent. Well, listen, on that note, hopefully the results come for you at the weekend as well. Before we go, we have had a message in. Tony Quinn has said, yup the Bows. So you have at least one supporter watching this evening. So listen, Ciara, best of luck to you and your teammates the weekend. You never know, we might be, when we said to Emily earlier on, we might be chatting to some of your teammates ahead of a cup final. Fingers crossed from a Bows point of view. I'm sure we'll get hammered by shells for that as well. But Ciara, I'm not going to be at the game. Aaron will take the hit. It's fine. Ciara, thanks for joining us. Pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Ciara Maher there from Bohemians, obviously defender with the side. She's been you mentioned she's been out injured a little bit over the last 3 weeks, but she's been an integral part to their team in the dressing room over the last few weeks and months as they've kind of put together a pretty good season by Bows standards. They'll be happy enough with this at the end of the year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they finish ahead of, if they can manage to pip Galway, they'll probably class that as a superb season, get into a cup semi-final as well. And like you can't knock that, considering last season the amount of times they lost games where they should have won games and they should have got results. Where this season they're picking up the results. Like Athlone, they've got results against the big teams. Coincidentally, the only team that Bows have yet to get a result against. Who do you reckon it is?
Oh, it's Shells, isn't it?
It's only one. No, Wexford Youths. So Athlone and Bows are the only two not to get a result against Wexford Youths in the National League.
Well, see, that's a good sign from Wexford Youths. But then you have Wexford Youths have dropped points to teams they wouldn't have expected to drop points to. Kylie Murphy, of course, had that penalty saved in injury time in the showgrounds for a fantastic victory for Sligo. So we're really seeing I think we look back maybe 5 or 6 years to when Kilkenny were in the league, and again, no disrespect to Kilkenny, but they took some awful hammerings. Even Treaty's performance last week, I said it earlier in the show, against Wexford, fine performance. They've got a couple of girls out injured as well. They've lost loads over the last maybe the last 2 transfer windows. So what they've managed to do with the circumstances they're in, I think it's huge as well. But listen, there's plenty of football to be played before
we didn't get to mention this last week, and I think it'd be remiss if we don't. Kylie Murphy scoring a 100th Women's National League goal. What a great achievement. One of the most long-standing players in the National League. Funny enough that she only won Player of the Year for the first time last year, which is absolute criminal. We won't talk about the Ireland cap because that doesn't sit well with me, but what a consistent player in the National League, and it's one of them that, you know, it'd be great to see more players eventually get to that mark. Who could be the next of the younger players? Maybe Emily Corbet could be one of the next younger players to get there in a couple of years' time. And it's great that we're talking about things like that. We're talking about the positives of that rather than we're not coming on here every week talking about, oh, someone got battered 8-9-0. You know, we're talking about there's so many positives every week, and I think that's the biggest massive driver for the Women's National League at the moment.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up for tonight, of course, the FAI Cup, Women's Cup semi-finals, the big attraction of the weekend. The other 6 have the weekend off. Where will you be watching it? You're going to be in Talca Park. I'll be watching on LOI TV. It's also, interesting enough, it was announced today, going to be available on FIFA.com, which I think is a big, big deal. It's an international audience potentially for this. It's going to be pushed out past the normal window of people who get to look in at the Women's National League and the teams in that. It's a big shop window as well, of course, for some players. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the league, I don't know. It's definitely good for the players involved.
11 Sport as well. 11 Sport as well. Like it's great. It's brilliant. When I heard the news, I started like, okay, because realistically, no one's going to go from abroad unless you know someone or you know the league is going to go and search LOI TV. So to have the fact that FIFA are going to pop on it. I actually popped onto the website earlier, just had a nosy, and there was games there even today that are being shown live today. So it's great, it's brilliant. I wouldn't mind. I'll be making the dash. I literally managed to get off work at 1 o'clock on Saturday, so I'll be literally straight at the Talca Park just in time for kick-off and then straight home for the other one. But what a weekend for her.
Absolutely. The final thing we want to talk about before we wrap up is, of course, the injury to Leanne Kiernan, announced by Liverpool today that she's going to miss the next couple of months after ankle surgery for an injury sustained during the week. And that's very, very sad news for her. She will more than likely, I would imagine, miss the qualifiers, at least the first round of the qualifiers, depending on what structure that's going to take for Ireland. So she came on as a sub the last day for Ireland. Is that a massive loss or just a little bit of a bump in the road?
For Vera Powell, it's probably a bump in the road, but for me, it's a massive loss. I don't think we utilised Leanne Kiernan enough. I would have Leanne playing an awful lot more. I think she's a smashing young footballer. You look what she done last year, Championship Player of the Year in England. She was brilliant for Liverpool, and you can see that zest of confidence has come back to her, and she was having the season of her life last year, top scorer in the Championship Player of the Year. She's done it all. She's shown she is capable, and I think you look at the performance against Finland. Against Slovakia, I thought she was very good when she come off. Maybe I would have liked to see her used in some other games in the campaign. I know she come on away to Sweden as well, but there was other times where we could have used her just for that bit of speed and pace, and it's a massive loss for her. And especially you look at Russia Littlejohn and Megan Connolly are already out as well. So it's difficult. It's never nice to have surgery, but we can only wish Leanne the very best of luck with the recovery and look forward to seeing her back on the pitch, because I first interviewed Leanne when she was just 16 and the shy young girl when she came into Shelbourne, and to see her grow to where she is now and signing a contract with Nike to become a Nike athlete as well this week. I think it's just a testament to the hard work she's put in.
Yeah, so you're taking all the credit for all her career because she met her at 16. We read it here first, folks. Aaron's taking credit for Leanne's career. No, on a serious note, I'd like to echo those sentiments as well. Best luck and quick recovery to Leanne. I'm sure she'll be back in an Ireland jersey and a Liverpool shirt in the not too distant future. Aaron, that's it for the week. Only just a couple of days wait to see who does qualify through the semi-finals and into that final in Tallaght Stadium later in the summer in the, I suppose, the I don't know, call it the blue ribbon event of the women's football season here in the country. I've been refereeing early for the last 45 minutes or so. Aaron Clark is this bloke over here. Thank you so much to our guests who joined us today, to Emily Corbet of Athlone Town and to Ciara Maher of Bohemians. It's been an absolute pleasure having them on the show today. Best of luck to all the teams taking part in the Cup semi-finals at the weekend, and we'll be back with you again next week.